In this module, I'll tell you something about the European Union and what you need to know about it when you're chairing a committee in EYP. The European Union is a political and economic union of 28 member states, founded originally by the so-called Inner Six, consisting of the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, France, Italy, and Luxembourg. The first version of the European Union was the European Coal and Steel Community, or ECSC, which was founded in 1951. Quickly followed by the European Economic Community in 1957. The EU itself, as we know it right now, was established with the signing of the Treaty on the European Union in Maastricht in 1992. The European Union has 24 official languages, and its national anthem is Ode to Joy. As you probably noticed, the first version of the European Union was founded quickly after World War II. This is because the original idea behind the European Union was to ensure that a world war would never happen between two of the main actors during World War II, namely France and Germany, both countries in the Inner Six. The intended way of achieving this goal was by economic cooperation between these two countries. The idea behind this was that two countries that were trading with each other and therefore economically reliant on each other would not wage war with each other. Another principle of the European Union is the rule of law and the principle of democracy. Everything that the European Union does is based on its treaties, which member states voluntarily and democratically commit to. One of the main goals of the European Union is also the protection of human rights and equality. Some of the achievements of the European Union in the past are listed here. I would like to draw your attention to this one, the 4 fundamental freedoms. You might have heard of it in the discussions around Brexit. These 4 fundamental freedoms are very important to the European Union. They are the freedom of movement of goods, capital, services and people. Especially the freedom of movement of people is something that you've probably noticed when traveling between two European countries. But how can the EU achieve these goals? The European Union has 7 institutions, listed here: the European Council, the European Commission, the European Parliament, the Council of the European Union, the European Central Bank, the Court of Justice of the European Union, and the European Court of Auditors. The European Council, the European Commission, the European Parliament, and the Council of the European Union are the 4 institutions that you will encounter most within EYP. First, let's look at the European Council. The European Council consists of the heads of state or government from all member states of the European Union. The President of the European Commission, currently Jean-Claude Juncker, and the President of the European Council, who is also the President of the EU, Donald Tusk, are also present during its meetings, but are not allowed to vote. The European Council determines the political and strategic direction of the EU by consensus, which means that all member states have to consent to the direction set by the European Council. This direction determines what the EU, as a supranational body, wants to achieve. The European Council is also the institution responsible for setting and amending the treaties of the European Union. The European Council, even though it has crisis managing powers and also a lot of jurisdiction regarding foreign policy, has no legislative competencies. The European Council convenes at least twice every half a year, although extraordinary meetings can also take place. For example, after the 9/11 terrorist attack in the United States, the European Council came together to determine together how to react to such a terrorist attack. Within EYP, the European Council is mostly relevant when your delegates want to carry out a very big change to the European Union. However, do keep in mind that such changes are very difficult to actually carry out, and you're always better off trying to achieve a different result with your committee. As I mentioned before, the Council doesn't have any legislative powers. The ordinary legislative procedure is as follows. The European Commission proposes legislation. The European Parliament and the Council of the European Union can then together approve, amend or reject this legislation. The European Commission makes up the executive branch of the European Union, meaning it is the only institution that can initiate the legislative procedure. Usually, when we refer to the European Commission, we refer to the College of Commissioners. which consists of 28 commissioners, one from every country. One of them is the President, currently Jean-Claude Juncker. The European Commission can also refer to the entire European Commission, including 53 civil departments, executive agencies and directorate generals, each in charge of a specific policy area and usually with one commissioner in charge of the DG. The European Commission is also referred to as the guardian of the treaties, because the European Commission is responsible for ensuring that the targets set by the European Council are met and that the treaties and the laws of the EU are enforced. How you should imagine this is that the European Council decides what they want the European Union to do. For example, achieve equality. The European Commission is then in charge of proposing legislation to actually achieve this goal. The European Commission, as I said before, consists of 28 commissioners, one per member state. However, the commissioners do not represent the interests of their member states. They represent the interest of the European Union itself. In relation to EUAP, the European Commission is relevant when you need to pass concrete laws, since the European Commission only can initiate the legislative procedure. The European Commission is also so powerful that whenever you don't know who exactly is in charge of something, you can tell your delegates to refer to the European Commission. The European Parliament is the only directly elected institution of the European Union. It consists of 751 directly elected members of the European Parliament, of which one president, currently Antonio Tajani. The European Parliament is also the institution that, within EUAP, we imitate to be. The European Parliament is divided into 8 political parties and 20 subcommittees, one of which, AFET, has 2 subcommittees, namely SEDE and DROIT. The Parliament also has budgetary powers. Together with the Council, it approves the EU budget. The European Parliament also scrutinizes the European Commission and has the power to send the entire European Commission home. The President of the European Parliament also has the power to send individual commissioners home, both through a motion of no trust. The European Parliament represents the interest of the European people in the lawmaking process. The European Parliament is only relevant within EUAP when you want to work together with another committee. For example, because you do not have the jurisdiction over a specific policy area in which you want to carry out a law. The Council of the European Union, or the Council of the EU, also the Council of Ministers, or simply the Council, is a council of 28 ministers that convene in 10 different configurations. The Council of the European Union has a rotating presidency between the members of the European Union, of 6 months each. Whenever the European Commission has made a proposal for new legislation, Member States send the minister relevant to the policy area in which the legislation takes place to convene in the Council. The ministers sent by the Member States represent the interests of the Member States. The Council generally has equal power to the European Parliament when it comes to the legislative procedure, except in the area of foreign policy. The European Council usually votes with a qualified majority, which means a 2/3 majority, or unanimity, depending on the topic. The Council of the European Union is only relevant within EUAP in very specific cases. Here is an overview of the entire ordinary legislative procedure again. The European Council, which you can't currently see, proposes a president of the European Commission, which is then elected by the European Parliament. Each member state also proposes one commissioner, which has to be approved by the European Parliament collectively. Afterwards, the European Parliament scrutinizes the European Commission. The Court of Justice of the European Union has a chief judicial authority and oversees the uniform application and interpretation of European Union law. It also cooperates with national judiciaries of the member states. In an EUAP context, the Court of Justice of the EU as an actor is only relevant in some jury or libe topics. Another institution of the EU is the European Central Bank, which is a central bank for the euro. It administers the monetary policy of the Eurozone, which consists of 19 member states who all use the euro. The European Central Bank replaces the central banks for individual Eurozone countries. The president of the European Central Bank, Mario Draghi currently, is appointed by the European Council. The European Central Bank, within an EYP context, is only relevant with some econ topics. Looking at you, Alexa. The European Court of Auditors is a professional and independent external investigatory audit agency. It checks the budget of the European Union and it makes sure that it has been implemented correctly, for example when allocating funds to individual member states. Its president is Klaus-Heiner Lehne. The European Court of Auditors publishes a report to the EP annually, based on which the EP decides whether to approve the budget or not. It has occurred twice that based on the report of the Court of Auditors, the EP refused to sign off the budget for the EU in 1984 and 1999. In 1999, it also caused the resignation of the Sanders Commission. Despite being one of the 7 institutions of the EU, I have never seen an EYP topic where the European Court of Auditors was a relevant actor. What the EU can and cannot do is defined in the treaties of the European Union. We call these competences. Competences are divided into 3 categories, so-called exclusive, shared and supporting. There's also a few special competences, such as foreign affairs, where the Council and the European Council have most power to decide. In such cases, the EU is represented by the President of the Commission and the High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. In EYP, before you start writing your topic overview, it's usually very useful to try and figure out what category your topic falls under, because it can very heavily influence what you, as a committee, will be able to do during the session. Here you can see the subdivision of all topics in the 3 different categories. I hope this clarifies something about the working of the European Union in an EYP context. As always, if you have any questions, please send them to me and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Thank you.